Guys, Boxing Gossip here. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to start with a disclaimer, and I'm doing this not to gloat, but I'm actually doing it because I want to express that I did have a bias here, which is that I bet on Jack Arnfield on this fight. I got him at 5-1, and I didn't necessarily confidently think Jack Arnfield would win the fight. I thought it was a very even matchup, but I thought stylistically, his style, his height, his range would cause Ryder a lot of problems. And I just thought 5-1 was too big a value, so I got on it. Now, I actually scored the fight a draw watching it live. I was surprised by how wide the scorecards are, actually. Jack Arnfield won this fight very wide. One of the judges had it by 8 rounds. I was watching the fight with a friend, and I actually said midway through the fight, the styles are so different here. It wouldn't surprise me if one of these guys wins by a wide margin, because if you're the kind of judge who prefers the high volume approach, you could easily be scoring every round to Ryder. If you're the kind of guy who prefers the boxing and jabbing approach, you could easily be scoring every round to Arnfield. Nevertheless, I was quite surprised to see Arnfield win by 8 rounds, because I did think it was a close fight. And even though it wasn't like a barnstormer, it wasn't a thriller, I found it entertaining from one perspective, in the sort of chess match sense, because we're looking at two styles that are completely opposed. Arnfield, guy who likes to box from range, likes to move, likes to establish the jab, likes to pick pretty punches from the outside. John Ryder, a scrappy guy, likes to close the different distance, get on the inside and throw mid-range hooks in combinations, working the body. So completely different styles. I've got to say, if you guys have been watching my channel for a long time, you'll know that I've never been a particular fan of John Ryder, and you'll know that I believed he's been overrated throughout his career. But fundamentally, the levels of John Ryder were yet again shown tonight. He's a guy who, for me, is sloppy. He really smothers his own work. He's inaccurate. A lot of his punches that were supposedly landing good punches, really, if you look at them, they were on the arms, they were on the gloves, and clearly the judges didn't fall for it. Now, one person who did fall from it is a guy who once sold 80,000 tickets at Wembley, which is Carl Frost. The commentary tonight from Carl Frost, I would have to say, goes down as some of the worst commentary I have ever seen since I started watching boxing. If you listened to this fight, just the commentary without watching it, you would be under the impression that John Ryder was a clinical boxer putting on an absolute schooling in there tonight. I mean, I do not believe how far up John Ryder's arse Carl Frost was tonight. It was absolutely ridiculous. You know, you'd see Arnfield land jab, lead right hand, didn't even get a mention. And then John Ryder throws 2 slapping punches that land on the gloves. And Carl Frost is getting so excited, talking about what a force of nature John Ryder is and what a tidy, clinical fighter. I think at one point Carl Frost even said how strong defensively John Ryder was, which was farcical from where I was sitting anyway, and certainly from where the 3 judges were sitting. So what Carl Frost was doing in there tonight, Carl Frost, I know a lot of people rate him as a commentator, and I'm not typically someone who just slates him for the sake of it, but tonight it was beyond bizarre. And credit to Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie Malignaggi, who, as we know, is a very good commentator, had it much more even and saw it as a 50-50 fight, and was giving Arnfield a lot of credit throughout the course of the fight. I think he had it evens going into the last round, which for me Arnfield clearly won. So yeah, credit from to Paulie Malignaggi for calling it slightly more down the line. Paulie also made some excellent points about Arnfield's judgment of distance and how Arnfield maybe didn't keep the range very well. For me, that is going to be a big problem for Arnfield, stepping up above John Ryder level to British level, because he's a guy who really needs to dictate that range, and the way he's not doing it means he is vulnerable. If I was Arnfield, I'd be looking at a guy like Tom Baker at light heavyweight. I'd be looking at a guy like Hosea Burton at light heavyweight perhaps, and I'd be trying to adapt my game to fight in a similar method to them, where you can dominate the range. I think Arnfield's got a good jab, but what he's not doing is using the jab with any versatility. He throws a light single jab which scores, but if he could double up that jab, if he could maybe change the levels, maybe a jab to the body, jab to the head, or triple it up, he'd be really, really eye-catching, I think. So a lot to work on from Arnfield. For me, he's probably an English level fighter, probably just shy of British level. As for John Ryder, it's really hard to see where he goes from here. It really is. He's just too scrappy, too sloppy. For me, not enough fundamental technique, not enough power, not enough snap or or real skill as far as I'm concerned. And it's been a long time coming, this, from John Ryder. He's a guy who, for me, has never really impressed, and I've never really bought into the John Ryder hype. This is a guy who most people think is a good fighter, fundamentally, because of a losing effort to Billy Joe Saunders, let's not forget. So as I say, I scored it, I think on my card it was probably a draw, and that was even despite the fact that I bet on Arnfield. But really, you would expect John Ryder, with the hype and, you know, sort of the Matchroom affiliation, to be winning a fight of this nature, which he hasn't done. So credit to Arnfield. I thought, even though I scored it a draw, he actually looked the better fighter, contrary to what the Sky commentary team was saying. I thought he landed the nicer punches. I thought he was the more technically capable. And yeah, there we go. It hasn't been a vintage night's boxing tonight. It really hasn't. I've had a friend round and I've had to apologise a few times for the quality of the accent. It's really been dull. But I'm recording this moments before the main event, so you know, let's hope the main event is a barnstormer. If you're watching this video, let me know your scorecard for Ryder Arnfield. How did you score this fight? Do you agree with the judges? Or do you agree with Carl Frost? What side of the play do you sit on? If you've enjoyed this video, do take the time to hit the thumbs up button. Video coming straight after the Crolla Linares fight with some post-fight reaction there. So do subscribe so you can check that out. Many thanks indeed for watching.